So this is a Sky Striker list. Just 6 copies of the monsters, just a few hand traps, and then a bunch of spell cards. Meaning 3 copies of Upstart Goblin, and then 3 copies of the new Link 2 for Sky Strikers, which is like an amazing card. And then also they've got their Link 1, which I think was a V-Jump promo. So it's also very, very good for the deck. And then having 2 copies of Desires. And the side deck, Retaliating Sea, Lancia, 2 copies of Phantasme, 2 Nibs. So basically what you can expect out of the side deck. So I do believe that the deck tries to go second. So the deck doesn't really go first. Maybe this person might want to go first, because I do see they have a copy of this in the main deck. But typically modern Sky Strikers, they want to go second, so they can have an extra card, and they can also abuse, you know, like Thrust, and they can also utilize their breaker cards in the main deck, because they got a bunch of cards that can like destroy the opponent's cards. For example, like the new Link 2 monster, I believe it can destroy the opponent's cards. So yeah, I think Sky Striker does prefer to go second. Lunar Light. So we've got 3 copies of the new monster, who's a starter. We've got 2 copies of the other new monster, which I believe searches if it's sent to the graveyard by like card effects. And then they're playing 3 copies of Fractal, who's basically a search in this deck, because you dump the level 3, and then the level 3 will trigger its effect to search or special summon a Lunar Light from the deck. And then 1 copy of each of the Pendulum monsters, and then 1 copy of Yellow Martin, and then 2 Chick the Yellow, who's basically your playmaker in this deck, dumping a bunch of like Lunar Lights. Not hard ones per turn, so you can use it multiple times. So Chick the Yellow is like your playmaker in the deck. 3 copies of Tenki, 3 copies of the new spell card, which has a very good effect. It has a search effect on activation, and then it can also allow you to banish Lunar Light monsters from the graveyard. So if you activate Poly after like using this, then you can just banish from the graveyard to summon your new boss monster. So 2 copies of the boss monster, unaffected by card effects, and can nuke all special summon monsters the opponent controls once per turn. And it has 3800 attack. It's actually very, very hard to deal with, especially because they summon it next to SP Little Knight and Baguska. Very, very hard field to get over. And then 2 copies of your Perfume, because it's very easily searchable with your new level 6 fusion monster. And then we've got some tech cards in the extra deck. We've got Tiger King for Tenki, and then we've got Redoer. And then since basically everything is like dark, and then we've got a fire monster, you can play triple Dominus Impulse, which is a very, very good card. And then in the side deck, we've got 3 copies of this fusion card. Not sure exactly what it does, but I guess it makes it easier to go into your boss monster. One Tenpai deck managed to top. Tenpai has been losing popularity in the OCG, so people don't play it so often anymore. Obviously it's Tenpai, they want to go second. Book of Eclipse, Droplets, Super Poly, Sales Ban. I'm not sure exactly what they call with Sales Ban, but I guess they'll call something random that they don't want to deal with. And then we've got your typical Tenpai Synchro monsters. You probably won't be using most of the other monsters in Tenpai. You got your typical level 7, level 10, and then, you know, Trident Dragon. Those are usually the monsters that you'll be using. And then when they debarrier you can go into like the Princess line. Then the side deck, typical stuff, and then they're playing Heat Wave as well, and then 2 Vespa Girsu, which is sort of non-standard. So Tri-Brigade Sprite featuring K9 did get a top. So a lot of monsters, some Sprite cards. Level 2 Sprite cards. We've got your Beaver, and then we've got the Tri-Brigade monster lineup, Fractal. So this is a typical Tri-Brigade lineup. And then two Sprite spell cards, and then they're going into Rabbit as part of like the end board. And then we've got the Yummy Link 1. I'm not sure why they play the Yummy Link 1, because they don't have Reaper in the side deck, so I have no idea why they play the Yummy Link 1. So yeah, that one's a bit of a mystery, but maybe I think it's a beast. Okay, so they can actually summon it. I think it's a beast, that's why. Yeah, so they can summon it by banishing one monster from the graveyard, and then they summon it as the link 1. But in that case, they could have just used the Reapers in the side deck because they're already playing the yummy target as part of the engine. But anyways, in the side deck, Phantasme, Ghost Spells, and triple anti-spell fragrance. Then we have Melodius. So the Melodius lineup, not sure if this is standard, playing the Purge and then playing Breakers in the main deck instead of using a bunch of hand traps. And then we've got your typical side deck, and then the Yummy Hate, and then also some Lunar Light Hate. And then Imperms in the side. Then we have Morganite. Morganite, it's an anti-meta deck. So obviously you see here we've got Christia, we've got the Vanities, and we've got Majesties. So basically one of these Morganites allows you to summon higher level monsters without your normal summon. So you just, I guess you, and then you can also draw like 2 cards every turn instead of 1. So if they stall for long enough, they can basically just like beat you down with card advantage and floodgate monsters, playing 3 Deep Fissures in the main deck, and then a bunch of like Solemns, because basically there's one of the Morganites that allows you to basically play the Solemns for free. And then the OCG, they also still have Card of Demise at 3 copies. Yeah, and then we've got, I guess, Super Poly targets in the extra deck. Probably won't be going into the extra deck too much. And then Maxi and Fuaros in the side deck for when you go second. One deck list of Leela. Leela did get 1 top featuring the Fiendsmith, and then 1 copy of Sharvara. So yeah, this is live twin. 3 of each of these monsters, 1 copy of the new monster, and then a bunch of hand traps, and then forbidden droplets to deal with the very big boards that people can make. And then they're also playing Contact Sea in the side deck. And then in the extra deck, pretty standard stuff, got your Bow, and then this is still legal. Nightmare Griffin is still legal in the OCG. 1 copy of Gem Knight using Fiendsmith and using K9. So Gem Knight, it used to get a lot of tops, but I guess better decks have come out. So now the deck has been struggling to top, but they managed to squeeze 1 top in May. Gimmick Puppet featuring the Horse package. I think the Horse package is kind of standard for Gimmick Puppet. And I believe only one of their monsters is limited. Yeah, I think this XYZ is the only card that's limited. So Gimmick Puppet can FTK, I guess, pretty consistently in the OCG. Dynamorphia, I'm not sure if this is a typical Dynamorphia list, but only using 3 monsters. And then we've just got a bunch of trap cards. So it doesn't look like they're using any trap cards which can activate from the hand, which is very strange. And also they're not using Ferret Flames either. So I don't know how, oh, they're using it in the side deck, but it's not in the main. So I actually don't know how this deck topped, but anyway, it does have 1 top. This is 60 card Spice. It's got a bunch of engines in it. It's got the Millennium package. It's got the Ken and Ben package. And it's got K9 in there. It's got, yeah, this deck has like a bunch of engines in there. And then a bunch of generic extra deck monsters. So yeah, so this is 60 card Spice. I have no idea how the deck is basically supposed to work. I guess every match you're playing a different deck. And of course it's got the 1 copy of That Grass is Greener. 60 card Spice. And then we've got Atlantans. Atlantans managed to squeeze in a top. Kind of works similarly to the TCG, but they still have access to Bahamut Shark. But because Totally Awesome is actually banned in the OCG. So it's been banned for years now, maybe like 3 or 4 years. So no Bahamut Toad, but they still play Bahamut Shark in here to get the Virtue Dragon. No trap card though, so they don't want to be breaking on that. So Momel Atlantean, Handrup plus Statue. And then we've got 60 card Branded using the 60 card Branded. So it is using the Draco Tail engine. So 3 copies of Rahu, and then 1 copy of the Search spell card, which can be fusion, which you can use to fusion, and then two Draco Tail monsters. So we've got the Mirror, the one that allows you to negate a monster effect, non-targeting, and then we've got the level 7, which destroys a spell trap on the field, non-targeting. So just 2 Draco Tail monsters with the engine, and then siding 2 more copies of the spell card, the normal spell card, which can be fusion spell card if your opponent controls a monster. And then yeah, just your usual like branded stuff. Gimmick Puppet Nightmare is still legal in the OCG, so they can still puppet lock you, but a bunch of their cards are limited in the OCG. Like branded fusion is limited. I think it's been limited much longer than the TCG. And then yeah, the rest of the branded stuff. And then we have Memento, so 2 Memento tops for May. This is kind of typical, except I don't think Memento monsters usually use polymerization. So yeah, they're using polymerization and also Black Sheep, Lunalite Black Sheep, which is interesting. And then Memento doesn't care too much about the extra deck, but we got like your typical like fusion monster package. And then in the main deck, your 3 ofs, and then you got your 1 ofs. So also 1 for 1 to get to your level 1 monsters, Mace and Goblin. Yeah, so unlike the TCG, there's no breakers in OCG Mementos. So we've got the droplets and the improms and stuff in the side deck. But yeah, we do have 2 Memento tops for May. And this is a pure K9 deck. They got a few tops as well, maybe like 3 or 4 tops. Yeah, K9 variants. So K9 with some other sub engine, as K9 being like the main engine. So this one has some level 5s that can summon themselves for free, which is typical. And then you've got your K9 search cards, and you've got your quick place cards, which allow you to like summon an XYZ from the extra deck and then pop a card. And then in the extra deck, we've got double K9 level 9. It was very good for checking your opponent's hand. I think it banishes a random card in the opponent's hand. And of course your level 5. This card is very, very good. It's an excellent card. Your searcher and can also negate a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, and it negates activations, so it can activate in the damage step. So we've got 1 copy of Durandal to shuffle back hands, good against Vanquish Soul, because if you shuffle back the monster that they reveal, then they can't summon that monster. Very good against Vanquish Soul. And then we've got your typical like niche package, or Nash Knight package. And then side deck, we've got the Reaper, who's been very popular. Yummy being the main target, and then Meows. Yeah, like Yummy is very, very strong in the OCG. Like every single deck like basically tries to side for Yummy, or main deck monsters to deal with Yummy. It's actually a pretty insane deck. And then 2 Pancratops and 3 D Barrier going first, and Solemns. Next up, we've got Cyber Dragon featuring K9. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know most of the Cyber Dragon cards, but we've got some Cyber Dark cards, we've got Cyber Dragon cards, and then we've got K9 cards. And then we've got 1 copy of the new Pendulum, who's level 5 light machine, who is perfect for Cyber Dragons, which K9 does use as well in their decks. And then you've got your typical Cyber Dragon cards in the engine, in the extra deck. And then we've got some generic Ling monsters. And in the side deck, we've got a copy of Cyber Jogmunder, I think it's called. And then we've got 1 Kaiju, which is useful against Lunalite's new boss monster. And then Nib, and then Solemns for going first. And Book of Eclipse, which is good against Vanquish Soul K9. It's also very good against Yummy, flipping all their monsters face down. Christian, so Christian is a rogue deck featuring the K9 cards. So 8 cards, which is like the typical, pretty standard engine. 3 copies of the continuous spell card, and then 1 copy of the quick play, and then 3 copies of chaotic elements. We can search for this guy or this guy. And then we've got your Christian monsters. So this is straight up like Christian and Crane and K9. So not Christian featuring K9, like Christian and K9, because it's a pretty like even like number of both engines in the deck. And then only 2 synchros, and then the rest are just XYZ monsters. So your typical lineup for K9 decks, and then the typical Nova and Infinity package for Christian. And then the side deck, pretty typical. You got your Pancratops, Lance here, so nothing too spicy in the side deck. So in my opinion, this is probably going to be the best version of Christian going forward, because yeah, the two archetypes really work well together, and they do complement each other, because K9 does need the level 5s, and then your level 5s can trigger in the graveyard, so you don't actually mind using them as like material and then like detaching them. So I think it's a very nice combination of decks. Blue Eyes Primate got a few tops, I think about 4 tops in May. So yeah, usual Blue Eyes lineup, double Blue Eyes, and then we've got the Primate Lordly Lord, and this is Primate Fusion with the new Fusion monster, and then we've got three Draw Beam. So yeah, a lot of this is pretty typical except for the Floodgates in the main deck. So they've got Floodgates in the main, Goes and Match, Rivalry, and then Skill Drain. And then yeah, in the extra deck, I guess this is a bit different, using Cheng Yang in the extra deck, and then also using the Blue Eyes XYZ. I don't think that's standard for Blue Eyes. And then in the side deck, they got 1 copy of the Primate guy, because I believe he's easier to get to now with the new support. And then 1 copy of Kokimaru Draco, who can shut down light decks and dark decks, so not allowing people to special summon light to dark monsters. So this is Odmega featuring Azamina. A couple of Odmega decks topped, but they're all using like different engines, so there's no like standard list for this archetype. But yeah, this one is 43 cards using the Azamina engine. And then monster lineup, 3 copies of the guy, the new Alistair, 1 copy of the big chick that draws you cards, 2 copies of the level 5, which summons itself and can pop spells and traps, 3 copies of the card that can recover for you and special summons itself from the hand, and then this guy can search for your spells, and then also can, I believe, can fusion summon. So yeah, he's got a fusion summon effect as well on the field. Then we've got your extra deck, you've got your themed monsters, and then we've got the Azamina cards, and then some link monsters as well. And then the side deck, Lancia, D Barrier, they can only be 1, so nothing too spicy with this list. Now for White Forest got a decent number of tops. I saw 6 different lists. So this is the list. This is featuring Fiendsmith, 1 copy of your big guys, 3 of the Searcher, 3 of the special summon Searcher, 1 copy of LZ, 1 copy of the Recruiter, and then 1 copy of the Extender, 3 of the Field Spell, and then we've got your Azamina cards. Diabolical because it's limited and wanted at 1, because they're limited in the OCG, 2 Call by the Grave, and then we've got a bunch of Azamina themed trap cards, and then we've got the Fiendsmith stuff, and then we've also got Sprint. So Sprint sends you like your White Forest level 2s, and then you can recover them with some of your effects. And then we've got Appaloosa, who's legal in the OCG, and then we've got the Azamina fusions, we've got Lacrima, and then they're not playing, so they're choosing to play the other fusion instead of Tezzeret, which is interesting. Then we've got Baron, who's legal, and then we've got your White Forest and Chaos Angel. So nothing really too spicy with this deck, and then the typical like side deck cards, and then 1 copy of this, because I guess some of your monsters have like 2500 attack or defense, so this is very good instead of using like Solemn Judgment and using up your life points. So the OCG does have a lot of diversity, so a lot of decks did manage to top, but Vanquish Soul and Yami are essentially the tier 1 decks. So those are the decks to beat. I didn't really see anything that particularly targets Vanquish Soul K9 in the side decks, but I did see a lot of cards that targeted Yami. So people really want to be able to deal with Yami. Tier 2 would be Malice and Draco Tail, and then tier 3 would be Ryziel, Lunalite, and Sky Striker, and then competitive rogue decks would be White Forest, Christian, K9, Odmega, Blue Eyes, and then I guess Cyber Dragon and Memento to some extent, and then the wild cards that got like 1 random top after that. So decks you can play and do have like potential to top tournaments. And like I said before, it's top 4 or top 16 of very, very large tournaments. So if a deck performs, it actually like performed very, very well, which means it was able to beat like a good number of strong tier 1 to 3 decks and some rogue decks as well. But I do have links to the deck list if you want to take a look at them. So I'll put the links in the description, and then you can peruse through them. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Peace.